Welcome everybody. I'm Master Firefighter Danny Woods, and today I'm here with retired Battalion Chief Murrey Loflin and Chief Steve Miles. Chiefs, could you give us a little background of yourselves and your tenure with the fire department and currently what you're doing now?
Good afternoon. I joined the Virginia Beach Fire Department in February of 1983 after recruit school. I'm trying to think of, I think it was TRFA 13. I got assigned to Fire Station 2 on Haygood Road and spent almost 4 years there. And January 1 of 1986, Chief Dizell asked if I would be interested in starting the safety and health program for the department. And I said yes, and it was on a trial basis for 6 months. I was assigned actually as an instructor here during that tenure. And after 6 months, the department liked what was happening and actually formed a division called the program manager. The older people in the department will understand that, but Chief I.B. George and Chief Donna Brim and myself were part of that program. And actually Donna and I started, our office was in the corner of the old library of this training center, which now doesn't exist, but that's where we worked for about a year, and then we moved to the old communication center at Fire Station 16. And from there, I ended up being in safety almost 11 years. I worked, it was a day job. I worked from 8 to 5 and then was on call in the evening. So there were a lot of weeks I'd come home and then be back out. And I got to go to a lot of calls, and then I got transferred. I went to Engine 19 for 18 months, and then to Engine 9 and Ladder 9 for 18 months, and then got promoted in June of 2001 to Battalion Chief. Went to Battalion 2 for 2 years, and then I went to Battalion 1, and I retired out of Battalion 1.
It's a long history, and thank you for starting up the safety program, taking the initiatives. Chief Miles, if you could introduce yourself, sir.
Good afternoon. Actually, I started in 1972 as a volunteer with Ocean Park, a junior volunteer, and then I was hired by the city of Chesapeake in 1977, because Chesapeake would hire you when you're 18. Virginia Beach, you had to be 19. So once I turned 19, I came to the beach and had a wonderful career with Virginia Beach. I ended up doing 30 years from 1978 to 2008. We had served in a number of different positions. I was about 17 years in suppression. I did 1 year down here at the Fire Training Center right after 9/11, and then had the opportunity to go into safety as a shift safety officer. And we basically just fell in the paths that Murrey and some of the predecessors had already charted out, but we had a really healthy safety program. So we had some rewarding investigations that weren't surface cause analysis. They went right to root cause analysis. And we involved a lot of different agencies. One was cylinder valves, SCBA cylinder valve, catastrophic failure. We had an oxygen cylinder explosion, fire and explosion on ladder truck 16 that we investigated, but they were kind of beyond our ability to get to a root cause. So we involved NIOSH, and of course the FDA regulates medical oxygen, so they actually hired a laboratory to find an ignition source for me we knew what caused the explosion, but we didn't know what caused the initial fire. So that kind of opened my eyes to a number of different avenues and rewarding avenues on root cause analysis and not just taking a surface cause for an accident or an incident investigation, but actually getting to the root cause. And we had the support of fire admin. We had David Land was my division chief at the time, then he was deputy chief. And Chief Cade, Chief Cover, they gave us wonderful support and basically let us run with those investigations. And they ended up being national investigations. So with the results going nationwide, users notices were issued, and then we had some SCBA issues that Chief Debbie knows all about that we also involved NIOSH in. So that it really opened up my eyes. So I stayed in safety for quite some time as a shift safety officer, and then got bumped up to acting battalion of the safety division, was promoted into battalion chief of the safety division, and it went from there. So what a wonderful career, and exciting opportunities abound in the safety investigation and mitigation business. So that's what I did, and I graduated. I retired in 2008, had a 9-day retirement, and went to work as an investigator for NIOSH on the fatality investigation team. So in a nutshell, that was pretty quick, but that's how I got here.
Okay, so during your tenure with NIOSH and the many investigations that you guys have seen and been a part of, what are some of the contributing factors that you've seen that relate to firefighter injury and death?
One area that sticks out in my mind on a number of cases is SCBA usage, and specifically uncontrolled out-of-air emergencies. And every department across the nation is being impacted by not as many fires, a lot of new folks coming in, and so your repetitive skill muscle memory training with that particular SCBA, we refer to it as cockpit time. In other words, we want you so comfortable in your SCBA that you're literally concentrating on the effects of the smoke, the signs of an impending flash, the ventilation needs, the actual focusing on what your specific task event is. We'd rather you not be focused on trying to operate your SCBA at that point. So we have seen it. We have documented it in a number of our reports. Matter of fact, I was writing this morning on it. There's nothing more important than your specific knowledge of your specific SCBA that you're using. Whether you be a brand new firefighter or you're a 20-year firefighter, but now you've suddenly switched models. It's easy to spot. You can even see it at the training center. Folks that don't have the muscle memory, repetitive skills training, you hear air loss. When they don't hit their DOF button when they disconnect their MMR, the mass manner regulator, those kind of things. So, or they're having some trouble getting it installed, and those are the kind of things that should tell an officer they need more cockpit time. It may just be that you've just switched models or manufacturers, and we can go back to, we pull out of here today in my Ford pickup, and it starts barreling rain. I know exactly, my muscle memory knows exactly where that wiper switch is. You just go to it as you're turning the stereo on. It's just an automatic muscle memory response. You go rent a car and pull out from underneath the parking garage in Houston, like we did, and it's just downpouring, and you're struggling to find the control knob for that particular vehicle that you're in for the wiper. Something simple. All SCBAs have a purge valve or a bypass valve. All SCBAs have a cylinder valve. All SCBAs have, some method of connecting their MMR to the face piece, those kind of things, but each one may be just a little bit different. Recognition of your HUD is huge. We're seeing that now. HUD is heads-up display, and the SCBAs since 2002 have had to have a HUD, a series of lights, 4 lights. We did a recent investigation, and it was a huge department, a very large department, and at the closing meeting, all the executive level officers were in there, and we were talking about air management, and I said, nobody that we interviewed recognized their 50% flash on the HUD. And I got the 10-yard stare in a 5-yard room and said, it flashes? Well, yes, it does. But it's fairly new in the fire service. So, they don't have the muscle memory, repetitive skill training with that SCBA to realize that's a signal, and it's a task level air management thing. When your 50% alarm flashes, you need to let your officer know, hey, I'm at 50%. It's a tactical level. Somebody in accountability has to be, say, hey, these guys have been in there, 12 minutes. Based on a 1,200 liter SCBA, they should already be getting close to their EOSTI or end of service time indicator, those kind of things. So using your SCBA is beyond using it as a tool. It is your life, and that ability to operate with it is key, so you can pick up on all the things you need to be concentrating on. Building construction, risk of collapse, somebody's vented the windows behind you, or somebody hasn't vented the roof. All of those things that you need to be keyed in on. But if you're concentrating on your SCBA, you're missing those signs of fire that you need to, that's how you build your slide tray, So I'll get off my soapbox about SCBA, but I know you folks are getting ready to change models or manufacturers soon. And one of the areas that we see is when folks change SCBA manufacturers or models, the most expensive portion is not the initial outlay. The most expensive portion or cost to the department is to rebuild cockpit time with every firefighter in that organization with that SCBA, so they can operate with it flawlessly and be able to control an initial out-of-air emergency. What could have been your cylinder valve was just cracked open. But at 4,500 PSI is giving you enough. But once you get below, or you get close to your EOSTI, you're starving yourself, you're getting air starvation. Those kind of things happen. Well, you need to automatically be able to go, number one, go to your, and you can tell I'm using my right hand. This is a Survive Air purge valve. On a Scott, maybe, or on a different manufacturer, it may be over here. On some manufacturers, it may be right on the front face, but you can't be fumbling around to it. You need to go back to the windshield wiper analogy. It just needs to automatically go. So if your purge valve doesn't solve the issue, you need to go to your cylinder valve, make sure it's all the way open. Look at your HUD. Do you have plenty of air left? Those are the kind of things that are easily overlooked in what it costs to change an SCBA. So I know you got some first-class people here that really understand that, but everybody needs to understand, right from the frontline firefighter to the chief of the department, that it's important. And if you're not getting enough fire calls where you're actually going on air, then you need to make it happen. Even if you do morning cleanup in your SCBA, you need time on air. That's the only way to get those skills built. They don't come from, didactic training where somebody is just lecturing you on this is where this is and this is where that is and this is your SCBA. Now you've got an 1,800 liter. EOSTI has been changed to 33% from 25%. But if you don't get out there and use it a lot to develop those skill sets, a little bit of panic sets in because of your initial out-of-air emergency, you need that muscle memory response to overcome whatever that issue is. Otherwise, that issue is uncontrolled and then it snowballs. So we do see that.
Chief, do you have anything to add?
As Steve was talking, I was trying to think of a couple things in terms of contributing factors that we see. One of the issues, and I guess this was kind of my focus when I was here with the department, was in the incident command system. And one of the issues that we continuously see in a lot of investigations, people know the incident command system forward and backwards. The problem is they don't know how to use it on a Type 5 or Type 4 incident, things that we run every day. The vehicle accidents, the Mrs. Smith's kitchen fire, whatever it may be. And one of the things that we've tried to do in our investigation reports through NFPA, there is now a standard that deals with command safety, how to incorporate command safety into the incident management system. And most of our reports, and not that we're trying to be repetitive, but these are really key issues. We still have people trying to manage a fire from being inside, from the sidewalk, the front lawn, and you just can't do it. And so we're working with that. Accountability continues to be an issue until we get a system, and I think we're getting close, but that we use the passport system. I believe you still do use a passport system, and it's a very good system. It's a human-run system. So there's changes, I think, that are coming with accountability. Another thing is rapid intervention crews. And I can remember when I was a captain on Engine 9, it seemed like every other fire we were assigned as Rick. And everybody complained, you know, why do I have to go stand over there and watch everybody have fun? But the issue is, and I've learned it in this job, how important it is. We've seen where departments have taken the resources that assigned a RIT, put them into service, and then there's nobody to, if something happens, to come and get them. So it's a very real scenario, and as we learned, and Chief Brunacini taught us this after the Southwest Supermarket fire in 2001, rapid intervention is not rapid, and the number of people it takes to get a firefighter out. So those are some of the issues. The situational awareness. I'm not sure if that's an overused term or not, but it's very important. Understanding where you are, what you're getting into, and this maybe goes back to the culture. You know, why are we, and not questioning people, but understanding, you know, and it kind of goes back to risk management, I think, and Steve will agree with me. You know, what are our risks that we're going to take? What's the benefit if we do this? And that's something at a fire which is very dynamic. We have a very short window to make that happen, and so it's gathering a lot of information, especially as you go as a command officer, trying to put all this together to formulate an incident action plan for an incident. So those are some of the things, and Steve talked about air management. That's a huge issue, how important it is. And I know a lot of departments, you know, when you better be outside before your EOSD starts to ring, or again, there's issues. So it's very, very important.
Many departments vary as far as employees, training, equipment goes. And you've seen many changes from the time that you came in the Virginia Beach Fire Department to the time that you retired. Do you see a cultural change in our line of work, and are we making positive changes?
I think the fire service is. As a matter of fact, A document just came out from the United States Fire Administration on the fire service, trying to change the culture of the fire service. It's available now on the USFA website. And kind of the intent of the project, and actually let me back up, this actually started with the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation's 16 initiatives. The first initiative was trying to change the safety culture in the fire service. And it's kind of a collective process. And this document that was just released that I represented NIOSH on the panel is to take a look at what do we need to do collectively. Not just the fire chiefs, not just the safety officers, not just middle management, but on a company level, the firefighters, the officer, how do we change that? And there's a couple ways that we're trying to do that. One is, and I think this is one of the biggest things, is empowerment. Is everybody has a responsibility for their safety and for everybody they work with. And as we all know, this is, as being part of the Virginia Beach Fire Department, it's a big family, and we have to take care of each other. And so we empower everyone from Chief Cover all the way down to the newest member of the department, and we look at, you mentioned SCBA, we look at incident command, we look at protective clothing, we look at health maintenance. The department, or the city, has a wonderful health maintenance program, fitness program, vehicle apparatus safety. All those things come into play as we try and change it. Part of the problem is the tradition in the fire service. And one of the issues when I started safety, that was one of the biggest issues. People would say, you're taking the fun out of the job. And that was never, ever the intent of the safety program. The best time of my life were the years that I spent here with the Virginia Beach Fire Department, and I'd do it all over again in a minute, and I know Steve would too. But the issue that we're looking at is that we've got to change. On an average, we lose 100 firefighters a year. We have no worldly idea how many injuries occur, and that's one of the projects that we're trying to initiate, a system. The National Fire Protection Association does an annual injury report, but it's just a guesstimation based upon the number of responses that they get. So there's no way to really track that. So those are things that we have to look at. The occupational illnesses, it's so important that it all hopefully comes together. And one of the things when I worked in this organization, we would try things. If they didn't work, we'd go to plan B or C, but we never gave up. We always continued. And that really reflects on the organization as a whole. So we're making progress. One of the things, the department's maybe 40 years old at the most, but we go to departments that date back to the 1700s, 1800s, where the tradition is truly instilled, and those are things that we're battling. But a lot of the major departments in this country are stepping to the plate and saying there is a better way to do business, and that's part of this culture.
One of the, if I can expand on that, one of the areas that the 100 firefighters a year that are die in the line of duty, doesn't include the chronic folks. And chronically, disease is a huge burden on the American Fire Service. So changing the culture will have a huge effect on the untold numbers of folks that have debilitating chronic issues, and they're not acute. You know, we go back to the SCBA usage thing. You can stop an acute incident by mandating everybody wears their SCBA, you know, for this and for that. But if you want to change the culture even further, give them respiratory protection during overhaul. That doesn't have an acute effect. The picture is not as clear right away acutely, but it is chronically down the road. And we know all the, you know, the carcinogens, all of the horrible chemicals that are being, you know, released during incomplete combustion, all this synergistic stuff that's going on that we don't understand, but we're exposing our folks to. That is a huge culture that needs to change. And it's through inhalation, and it's through absorption, and I think we're making some headroads in that. I know NIOSH has just recently released some studies that, you know, that point to this high rate of different kind of carcinogens amongst firefighters, and you know, it certainly makes sense. So changing the culture acutely, you know, to stop a specific incident or to address a specific causation, and then changing the culture to prevent we want you to retire healthy, you know, and you know, that's where we can have a huge impact. Unfortunately, Murray and I's job here is we are traumatic fatality investigators, so we don't get into any of the chronic or cardiovascular disease and all those kind of things. That's handled out of the Cincinnati office. Good group of folks over there. We have a medical doctor and his staff that do all those. So that's, you know, an area in the future that we really need to have some really great impact, and the cultural switch to understanding. You know, I go back to when I was first hired in 1978. We had a huge boiler that heated the whole block down at Company 11. We get back in the wintertime, we throw our coats on the asbestos wrapped boiler to dry them out, because nobody likes to go, you know, put on a wet coat to go to the next call. So this whole move of PPE and absorption, you know, cleaning your gear, making sure your turnout gear is clean. We all know it, because after you shower and you clean when you get back to the firehouse, the following day you shower and clean, your pores open up, you smell it again. So there's a pretty good indicator that something is getting in through absorption. So the things that you can do to prevent that are, you know, 2 sets of gear, you know, so you always have one that's clean. You come back off a fire, you gross decon it at the scene, you get back, you put a new set of gear on for your next call. And so those are some of the things culturally. Dirty gear is not a badge of honor.
In talking of culture, you've mentioned everybody from the probationary firefighter up to the fire chief. Do you believe that change can go both ways? Change can start from the bottom and work its way up? Or do you believe it has to come from the top tenured members and go down?
I think it can work both ways. And one of the things when, and I go back to Chief Dizell, when we started the safety program, the intent was, this is the standard of safety that we're going to operate within the Virginia Beach Fire Department. This is how we're going to do business, and these are your limitations. And if you deviate past that, then you may have to go in and sit down with somebody and press hard on 3 copies. But, and I say that jokingly, that's not the intent. The issue is, we want people to understand why we're doing things, why we're making these changes. And I can remember the company in services, the officer in services that the safety office used to present different programs on, these are changes that we're working on, this is why we're doing it. And as I said, some of them worked, some of them didn't work. Give you an example, flame retardant uniforms. We used to wear the pants would shrink after you washed them.
Stitching coming out.
And we fortunately enough, the bottom line is the standard changed to allow cotton. So, but we tried people, I can remember guys during the summer would wear wool pants. We tried wool t-shirts. It was, and God love them, everybody was absolutely wonderful. We did the same thing with turnout gear. I can remember we went to leather boots. We tried that. There were a lot of things that we really tried to stay a step ahead, as Steve said, and this issue with turnout gear is a huge issue. And Steve and I are both still involved through the National Fire Protection Association. I know the Protective Clothing Committee is really, that's something that they're looking at based upon the cancer study that came out through NIOSH, through Dr. Hales in Cincinnati. And so this is kind of the next step. We've gotten our basic program into place. Now where do we need to go? And I think the health maintenance is going to be really, really important. And we get a daily news brief every morning from around the country, and it's just amazing the number of departments that are having issues with cancer. And I mean, it affected our department, and two wonderful people, and so we've got to really focus on that.
Right from the frontline firefighter to the chief of the department, it's hard not to see, how the culture of safety is integrated into a department when we go out. We see it all the time, and Virginia Beach is so fortunate in that the frontline firefighter and the chief of the department and the people that he or she responds to or reports to are all behind. You can see it in this building that we're sitting in. That is safety culture. When you have a training center the size of this training center, the commitment to allow folks to go down a road that we think we can have an impact, and allow them to fail says a lot about the organization. And we have been fortunate for my whole career that, all of the administrations, Chief Dizell, Chief Cade, Chief Cover, Chief Carter, all of them allowed that. So there wasn't any, there wasn't such a steep ingrained culture that we're not going to look at taking the guys off the tailboard, which somebody did to us. But it was a good move when we look back. Gosh, summer of '78, riding down Atlantic Avenue on the tailboard, you couldn't beat it. But it was, it was a national thing. We needed to get off those tailboards. And we needed to stop wearing the mask around our neck and actually put it on. So the SCBA rule at the time was you carry it with you and you got to have it on your back. Nobody said you had to have your face piece on. So all of those were necessary changes that they were both directed from the front line backwards and from the top forward. So, and supported. So it's easy to make a decision when you've got everybody on board with it, because we know we're doing the right thing. It's not a question of do we want black turnout gear or tan turnout gear. It's not that. It's what's the best turnout gear. We can discuss colors of fire trucks later, but what's the best fire truck? And Virginia Beach has always been fortunate, especially in the SCBA field. We've had a top-notch resource manager here. We've had top-notch input from the field on the best SCBAs you can buy, and we've had them. We've had them right from the days when they were carried in suitcases on the fire trucks, which was just slightly before my time, but I remember seeing them. And it will continue. So it's actually neat to see that. Other departments are not so fortunate. They are forced to get the gear that somebody has given them. And, you know, it may not be the best SCBA. It may only be a 1,200 liter cylinder as opposed to, well, we are asking for 1,800 liter cylinders, you know, those kind of things. So that ability to have input from the front all the way to the top is key.
So budgets dictate almost every aspect of what we do in the fire service as far as personnel, equipment, and training goes. If you could remove budget from the equation, what are some changes that each department can make in relation to a culture of safety?
Can I jump in, Murrey?
Absolutely.
We are so fortunate in Virginia Beach that we have not only the executive level support that we have, but we have the support of the citizenry. That it's important that you have a multi-million-dollar training facility. That it's important that you're able to budget that these folks can come down here and practice their skills annually or more often. There are so many departments that are experiencing brownouts, layoffs, you know, they can't get equipment replaced, and we see this literally all the time. So you're in a very, very fortunate position. The best thing that you can do is to know that the executive level has your back. You know, they're not forcing you to go out and do a job without the right tools, without the right equipment. You know, and staffing is a huge issue across the country. There's no getting around staffing. And if you have to call more apparatus, you have to call more apparatus for your actual deployment. But there's, you know, the bottom line is you need X amount of firefighters to initiate an offensive attack in this kind of a structure. And if you do it with 50% of that, you are really tasking those folks with way too many things. Something's going to get overlooked. And then you can start that accident or event sequence that leads to an injury or worse. So Virginia Beach is in a very, very good position because somebody has your back, you know, and that's a you know, it's something to pat yourselves on the back. You have it. Not every department has that. So we see departments struggling every day. Major cities. We put 9 companies out of service every day on a rotating brownout because they have to. They don't have the funds. And what goes along with that sometimes is, and we can see those dominoes starting to line up. Now you've got some covering people. You got covering people come in. Those people don't have the skill sets that the people that were intrinsically in that house had. So now you've got a makeup crew. And at the task level, if the 3 of us are on an engine company, we work together for years, all of our communications, we know each other's communication methods, and we get the jobs done. And same way with your ladder company that may be housed with you. You expect them to open the roof. You can hear the saw running. You know these things are gonna happen. But when you have this condition, and this condition is bigger, there are answers. And at the task level, it's positive communication. If we're inside of a structure fire on a hose line and I've gone into my EOSTI, it's my responsibility to tell that officer, and especially when we don't work together a lot, hey, I'm in my EOSTI, we need to get the heck out of here. And so what we see happen is just an expectation that this person is going to do this because that's how those companies have run for so long, but it doesn't always occur. When you make up crews and you put fill-ins in or overtimes in, it'll work, But those positive task level communications got to stay in place. You have to answer. You know, answer me when I say, hey, we're leaving, or, you know, those things that we take for granted in the communication world have to be positively done. You know, so that's one way of taking care of that.
I tell Steve this all the time. There's three things we need when we go to a fire. You need water, you need air, and you need communications. And the communications piece is another issue that we, and I say the fire service, struggles with in terms of communications SOP, understanding the limitations of your communication system, and so forth. You know, we've talked about a lot of different issues that hopefully make some sense. You know, in terms of budget, the support the city has provided, the citizens have provided, as Steve mentioned. I think we can, you know, when they do a citizen survey, the fire department's always the top, and has been for years, and that truly reflects on everyone in the department when we go out and take care of Mrs. Smith. And in the same token, the department, we want to take care of you, and that's so important. And I think that, you know, back to the culture is that, and I think Steve, the way Steve said it was very good. You know, as a firefighter, I know people are supporting me, and that's really good stuff. And unfortunately, we don't see it in a lot of places that we go. And as Steve and I travel to Morgantown together, we have these discussions. You know, we talk about scenarios that we were in, and how it relates to where we are today and so forth. But I just would like to say how grateful I am to what the department does in terms of supporting the safety program and all the components that go with that. It's just not you know, a written program, but it's what the safety officers do. It's what Chief Cadet does, what Captain Todd does. All those people, good folks.
Very proud of our heritage here. Very proud.
Chiefs, we can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedules to come out and give some good words of wisdom to our department. And would you like to add anything else before we leave today?
I would just like to say thank you for having me. This is, I'm very humbled. Thank you.
Absolutely. Know your SCBA. Absolutely. You got some new ones coming? Make sure you spend a lot of time in them.